Caption. Kate Shindle is starring as Alison Bechdel in the national tour of the Tony-winning Fun Home. We're here at the Brill Building in Times Square to chat with the star. Kate Shindle,
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us, doing a one-on-one with us this afternoon.
Woohoo.
So first of all, your resume is a marvel to sort of
Thank
behold.
you.
You're welcome. Former Miss America, author, activist, performer, president of Actors Equity.
Yeah.
You make me feel spectacularly lazy.
No kidding. That is awesome.
Are you the type of, would you describe yourself as the type of person who has to have a lot on her plate at one time, or is this
Evidently. I mean, the older I get, the more I seem to just gravitate toward things that are interesting to me, right? So becoming president of Equity was interesting to me, and being president of Equity is interesting to me. I look toward involvement in shows that I think are fascinating on some level, and I don't feel like I have to work every single minute in order to be an actor,
Right.
Which was a big development over like the last 5 years for me. A few years ago, I just went, I had done 2 shows in a row where I just wasn't excited about going to rehearsal in the morning. So I said, I'm just gonna do shows that I love. That's it. And if there aren't enough shows for me to be busy enough to continue to make a living as an actor, I'll go do something else, because I like other things too.
But now you're taking this, not a break, but you're transitioning into a new thing for a little bit. You're playing adult Alison Bechdel in the national tour of Fun Home. What do you love most about playing this role, about inhabiting this character?
Well, right now it's still a little terrifying because we're still finding our way through it. But I think that the things that drew me to it, obviously, are that she's an intellectual, which I think is fascinating. And it's interesting to try and figure out how to translate a primarily intellectual person in a theatrical way, right? And obviously we have a fantastic creative team, and we have a great director. Sam Gold is just tremendously collaborative and also super smart, so that's helpful. But I have to say, one of the things that I've been talking about a fair amount in the last couple days is, in addition to the show, the sort of activist opportunities that it presents to bring a message to places in our country that could use it right now. And so there's no part of this that I'm not psyched about. You're
playing a real person, obviously. How much goes into sort of making sure you're honoring and taking a little bit, getting that right person, but also creating your own performance? How much wiggle room is there in all of that?
Well, I think it depends on the person. I haven't spent a ton of time just obsessively studying real-life Alison's mannerisms. I met her. I thought she was so warm and cool and really smart, and the things that you expect her to be, but also just a really charming person. There is some pressure. I think that, especially because Alison's been so involved in
throughout the whole thing,
the creation of the musical. I think that it's easy, at least the way that I've explained it to myself, is that it can be easy to get stuck in playing a real person and forget that you're actually playing a character in a musical. And it has to work for something other than mimicry.
And I have to ask, so the character, Alison Bechdel, comes with a haircut.
Which is what actual Alison first said to me. She was like, hey, nice to meet you. Thank you for cutting your hair. I'm like,
oh, really?
That's the first thing? And of course I cut my hair.
Was there any sort of nervousness about it? Or were you
Yeah, I mean, it's just hair, but at the same time, like, I'm a physically big person. I'm 5'11", and, I've got shoulders like a swimmer. And so for me to take off one of the things that I felt sort of reliably feminine with was, I'm not going to say it was a hard choice, but it definitely gave me pause. But obviously I was going to do it, and I've now had 3 haircuts, and we're not sure that this is the end result.
Still in the process of shaping it.
We're still, my hair's performance is taking shape much as mine is.
And now, so like we mentioned before, you're a former Miss America. You've written about your experience of, I feel you obviously spent that time doing so much for HIV/AIDS prevention and awareness. What would you say is the toughest thing being a former Miss America? What was the toughest thing to either overcome, or the toughest lesson to learn, or what was the hard part?
The thing that always irritated me while I had that job continued beyond that job, which is just the assumptions that many, many, many people would immediately make about you as soon as they heard that. I mean, I remember being, in the midst of that year and walking into a party, and I was a Dean's List student at Northwestern. Like, I was bookish. I was a nerd. In high school, I was friends with my teachers.
Right.
And suddenly, I went and did this thing, and I won it, which was awesome. And then I realized that people didn't think I was very smart. Like, when they would meet me, they would give me that sort of condescending head tilt of, maybe we can talk over your head, Miss America, and like make jokes about you without you getting them. And I was like, no, I get your jokes. I'll see your jokes and I'll raise you some other jokes.
When did the performing bug, as it were, when did that bite you? Did you always know that you wanted to head in the direction of performing, or was that something you kind of like learned later on?
When I was about 11 or 12, with like no supporting evidence that I could actually do it. I mean, I played violin, so I learned to read music that way. And then when I was in 7th grade, our English teacher had us write a paper on anything we wanted, a really long paper of 2 to 3 pages. And I just picked acting. Then sophomore year, there were some like savvier theater kids in my school who were like, you should listen to Into the Woods. And I was like, what's Into the Woods? And then I listened to it. I was like, oh my God, I have to do this forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so by the time I was a sophomore or junior, I knew I wanted to study theater.
And since you dedicated so much time of your life for a while with activism, as you continue to do, did you allow that to sort of help you choose which projects you become a part of? Or because you sort of mentioned that there is a social message that's put forth with something like Fun Home, and it just so happened that do you use that background in activism, that passion for progressive agenda to sort of help you choose your projects? Or?
Not consciously. I think I'm just typically more interested in things that are substantive in some way beyond singing and dancing. Also, I'm a terrible dancer, so singing. Substantive beyond singing. I feel like the first priority has to be taking care of the show and making sure that we put up a show that just kicks ass.
Right.
But after that, the opportunity is to, connect with all these theater kids all over the country who aren't sure where they belong and maybe aren't getting a lot of support from their families or from their schools or whatever, and just go meet them and talk to them. It's amazing how little it takes to impact somebody's life. And I just think it's one of the most awesome things we can do.
Yeah, and going off of that, I feel like so much was made about like, oh my gosh, this show Fun Home made it to Broadway. Oh my gosh, this show Fun Home won things. Oh my gosh, now it's touring. Did you feel that way about its journey, or did you know, like, of course this would be,
No, I didn't. I was actually out of town for a lot of last year. I was doing a lot of concerts, and so I didn't see the show until January of this year.
Right.
And then I just got really excited about it.
Yeah, it takes you by storm.
But I think that it seems to me that during the run of the show, the cast started, whether it was the cast or the press office or the producers or some combination of the three, looking for opportunities to make an impact beyond what was happening at Circle in the Square. And I love that. I think that it's a great way to amplify a message by trying to do some good in the world while you're trying to do a show. So the fact that they went to Orlando, for example, what a cool thing to do, and how appropriate that they should be the ones to do it.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time talking to us today, doing a one-on-one with us.
One-on-one.
And make sure, if you want to find out anything else about Fun Home, check out Broadway.com. And if you want to find out where it's headed to a city near you and to get tickets, check out BroadwayAcrossAmerica.com. Thanks again so much.
You too.